Wakanda, folks, is in here. It's within all of us, and I'm going to prove it.
How are you going to prove it?
It's going to be hard. I'll give you that. But we're going to have a crack at it. And we'll start off just by mentioning a premium podcast on the website being Debate Might As Well Be Dead, which is obviously very relevant to Wakanda being on the inside, because I feel it. It's not real, obviously. Can't make that argument.
Well, you say that, but I mean, come on.
Yeah.
You know? I saw authentic Wakandan cuisine for sale at Disneyland the other day.
Well, you know,
it was fried chicken.
See, the thing is, I have never watched the movies, but you know,
well, you're not missing much.
But like your review of the original one, and then Harry discussing the newest one. Like, you think you're joking at first? Like, I remember the first one you mentioned in your review of that. It was like they started making monkey noises at each other, and you just like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I was just watching like, okay, I'm actually kind of uncomfortable by this.
Yeah, they're unironically very racist films, frankly, so disavow. But it's in here. Anyway, because we're going to the next one.
Disavow that.
Didn't think that through. I disavow that statement. But my point being that if we go to this, this was a clip from that Premium podcast. You should go check out the full thing. But this is fantastic. A Chinese student stands up in the middle of the debate between Kelvin and the race socialists and decides, in her words, here's something I don't want to hear. As if that's how debates work. You just declare, I don't want to hear this thing.
That's what the debate is about.
My debating society didn't have that rule. Anyway,
no.
She says she doesn't want to hear, essentially, that Zimbabwe didn't have a space program before the whites turned up, because she says she didn't want to hear that people didn't have hospitals and whatnot before Whitey turned up, because that is a racism, is her language.
Right. Okay. Hang on. Let me think about this. It a racism. So right. Okay.
One racism, please.
Well, no. What she's saying then is that the concept of racism doesn't have any moral connotation, right?
No.
Because it's not a judgment to say that Zimbabwe didn't have a space program.
It's
before.
a denial of that truth.
Exactly. Yeah, but it's not a moral judgment to say that Zimbabwe didn't have a space program. It's just a fact, right? And so racism is now just a description of reality in her. And so a racism is an example of a description of reality.
But it's denying reality. Denying the reality of the Zimbabwean space program,
sure.
Along with the Ghanaian space program. South Sudan, the newest African country, their space program, I'm sure is smashing it. But it's in relation, obviously.
Sudanese colonies to the moon.
God. Dinkas and the New are still killing each other on the moon. But the point here, she says about...
Rwandan space program.
She doesn't want to hear that Western medicine was not in Africa before the Westerners turned up, which, just wrap your head around that. But it's clearly a joke. But the thing is, it's real, too, because it's not just a racism in this university in Cambridge, some Tin Pot University, I'm sure. Also, Sky News are having to report on this within museums. The London Museum here reporting that their Medicine Man display has to go. The reason being that it's racist and sexist.
Right, so we're deplatforming black culture.
Well, it's a medical history exhibition.
Right.
It's a collection of this dude who's just been collecting them for years about all kinds of medicine.
Yeah.
And he claims, this collector, with his physical items from the time, he claims that Western medicine didn't exist in Africa before the Westerners turned up.
Well, what does he know?
I don't know. I can't believe he would do such things.
Why do they think... What?
I'll read the full thing.
So
I'm telling you, man. The Wellman collection display, called Medicine Man, includes objects relating to sex, birth, and death, and anatomical models in wood, ivory, and wax dating back to the 17th century.
Right.
A London museum says it is closing one of its key expeditions for good after admitting the display perpetuates a version of medical history based on racism, sexism, and ableist theories and language.
Right. So to describe indigenous medical customs, and I just want to be clear, right? In traditional medicine, in the West, we have a weird prejudice against traditional forms of medicine, because it turns out, actually, a lot of them do have some, palliative capacity, right? As in, over enough generations, they've learned that this particular kind of herb, when rubbed on this injury, actually relieves the pain, or something like this, right?
I think for YouTube's terms, we have to disavow all alternative medicine. But you are correct in saying, for example, the ancient Egyptians made a version of toothpaste before they knew what toothpaste was,
Why
obviously.
do we have to disavow that? Why is that?
Because it's the terms and conditions.
What, that you're not allowed?
I don't think we're allowed to. So it's all hokum unless it's approved.
Okay, right. Okay, yeah. No, there was no legitimate healing property of any pre-scientific medicine
No, but all scientific medicine was based in Africa before it came to the whiteys.
Right. Okay. Okay. I mean, if YouTube says that's the terms and service, I mean,
Don't you love the West?
Feel free to cut that out because I had no idea that like
I'll have to double check. I'm just being careful because
I had no idea that like saying anything about like pre-colonial medicine was verboten on YouTube.
Yeah. But I do remember it was from Horrible Histories. I can't remember what it was. I think it's I don't know. I'm just gonna say lithium because I don't remember what it was.
Yeah.
But the ancient Egyptians had made this gum where they would chew it.
Are you sure it wasn't mercury?
Might have been. I don't know. And some are medicine man,
Yeah.
unlike these geniuses.
Yeah, fair.
But they used to chew it, and it really was just a very early version of toothpaste, and it would actually clean their teeth.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that's neat. It's not like he sat there and thought about it for ages. They're like, no, this guy chews these leaves, and his,
No, but they
his teeth
learn
are better.
they learn through trial and error. Like okay,
Yeah.
you've got a rash, right? Rub like this leaf on it. Okay, the rash goes away, and if that happens enough times, then like you get 1,000 years later, some Western scientists go, yeah, so we checked, and actually it does do this because of this, and blah blah blah. Look at that.
But you do also get a load of nonsense, like
Yeah, of course you
the
do.
dock leaves,
Obviously.
and the stinging nettles, which was.
Obviously, you get
was
a
lied
load of
to about.
nonsense as well.
But they're saying here that the problem with the reality is that it presents a version of history that's sexist, racist, and ableist, but not because it's based on facts, but because it's based on racism, sexism, and ableism. Even if the facts were racist, sexist, and ableist, it's got to go.
What?
Yeah. The museum said colonial power shaped how the exhibition was put together,
Well, yeah, I mean,
along with everything else.
the colonialists had to go over there, get the things, and bring them back.
It was like saying, didn't you know medieval power shaped how we presented these medieval goods?
Yeah, I mean, how?
Duh.
Well, yeah. I
What a
mean,
waste of time that is.
Yeah.
The free display is part of a huge array of more than 1 million books, paintings, and objects amassed by the museum's founder, Sir Henry Wellcome.
Right.
Which, yeah, it's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I would have thought that would, have a section of reality in it, but apparently not. The Wellcome Collection said on Twitter, the very fact that they've ended up in one place, the story we told was that of a man with enormous wealth, power, and privilege.
Right. So this is the people running his estate
Yes.
have become woke and are like, yeah, well, he was bad.
And he's like, why did I leave all my stuff to you?
Clear them out.
His ghost. And the stories we neglected to tell were those that have historically been marginalized or excluded. I was like, well, he didn't collect. Well, he collected things, and the things he didn't collect,
Are marginalising and excluding.
he didn't have a huge amount of Siberian medicine.
I guess that's true.
Crazy.
Yeah.
The global story the display told was one of health and medicine, in which disabled people, black people, indigenous people, and people of colour were
Exoticized.
exoticized, marginalized, and exploited, or even missed out altogether.
Look,
the
bro,
museum
this
said.
is just the things he collected from 17th century Africa and brought back. Like, it's not that deep, frankly.
But also the fact they've been exoticized there is like the Africans could not rule all of Africa once upon a time. It was a big shock.
Well, the
also, what's
English
the
were
issue?
like, Africa, it's different to us. How strange. And like, oh, this is exoticization. How dare you?
Goes both ways.
Yeah.
Museum people. Like, you know there are tourists that come to England and think it's neat. I don't know if you ever heard of that. We have a tourism industry, weirdly.
Ooh, look how exotic.
I can't believe they do this to us. Anyway, it went on. We can't change our past, but we can work towards a future where we give voice to narratives and lived experiences of those who have been silenced, erased, and ignored.
And we're going to do that by silencing and erasing the voices of African medicine men.
Yes, and instead, we're going to find some Wakandans. They're in here, lads. And we will tell their stories instead.
But this is
we will
so
tell the
ridiculous.
story of the space program.
This is just like, I mean, literally, calling something racist just is generally a precursor to deplatforming some black person.
Yes. In this case, reality itself has to be deplatformed.
But like, these black medicine men, or like, you remember that, like the Aunt Jemima and Uncle Ben?
Yeah.
Rice? No, we're getting rid of those.
what was it, the tea or whatever, the American, the Indians gone off there.
Yeah, no. So we'll leave the land. We'll leave the land, but take the Indians away.
There are a lot of products that still have white women on them, or white men just being like,
Yeah,
hey,
exactly.
buy the product.
Exactly. Like the white people are being removed, but the black and Indian people are.
In response to all that, there was a black YouTuber, I've forgotten your name if he's watching, but he made a pancake mix with his own face on,
Right.
his own recipe,
Right.
started selling it on Facebook Marketplace.
Based.
Facebook Marketplace deleted him because it was racism.
No blacks. That's racist.
It was a picture of himself
Jesus,
doing this.
Facebook. Oh God. But the irony of this is just
Yeah.
unbelievable.
We tried to do this with some of the pieces in The Medicine Man using the artist's interventions, but the display still perpetuates a version of medical history that is based on racist, sexist, and ableist theories and language. What language was going through my head? They haven't actually named anything yet. This is why this Sunday, November the 27th, we'll be closing The Medicine Man for good.
Another black man deplatformed.
Can't believe it. It calls
Progressive.
it calls its decision a significant turning point.
I would like to have seen this display, actually.
Yeah, and it prepares to transform how it collects and how its collections are shown. Again, what was wrong? I still don't know. The welcome...
Like, literally nobody, everyone's just enjoying the display, and then some woke white progressive comes and goes, this has got to go.
Just gets a flamethrower.
Yeah, no blacks in here, thank you. Racist, sexist, and ableist, don't you know?
And where are the Irish?
Just, what are you talking about?
The Welcome Collection has pledged to establish a new project in the coming years, which will amplify the voices of those who have been previously erased or marginalised from the museums. So we found the Wakandans. We're going to go get them.
Okay.
Yeah. In 2019...
But not the medicine men.
Melanie Keane was appointed the director of the Welcome Collection.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. Every time. And reportedly pledged to be courageous in dealing with the most contentious items on display.
If anyone's wondering, it's not about the surname, it's about the first name.
No. She highlighted a 1916 painting by Harold Coping of black African kneeling in front of a white missionary. The piece, called A Medical Missionary Attending to a Sick African, is now in storage. We've hidden it.
No, but I love this. It's a painting of a black African kneeling in front of a white missionary. You think, oh my god, it's about slavery. It's like, no, the guy's sick.
No,
I'm here to help.
Yeah, that's not allowed.
Yeah,
Because of course they had Western medicine before we came.
Yeah, exactly.
Or that would be, to quote a great speaker, racism.
Exactly. It's not. It's if it was about slavery, I'd be like, okay, maybe I understand.
Should we check it out? Let's check out the painting here. Horrific.
Oh right, so it's
Can't
not,
believe
it's not kneeling in front. It's holding someone up who's sick.
No, but the white guy's kneeling there. So
And Jesus is there, so
So for people listening, it's a missionary
Ginger Jesus.
who's motivated by Christ. Horrible. He brings Western medicine to an uncontacted tribe. You can see they're still living in mud huts in the back
Yeah,
there.
and the progressive is like, not on my watch.
No, they had the Western medicine, and then
Yeah.
the evil whitey turned up here and gave him the illness, presumably. He just spat in his face.
Look at him spreading smallpox.
Remember, the entire area of Africa is just like the Indians. Remember, 99% died of diseases we brought there, not the other way around?
Yeah, no, Africa's been in contact with the old world for a long time.
Yeah, their diseases were the ones keeping the whiteys away for a long-ass time.
No, that's unironically true. The Dutch got malaria problems like really, really soon after just travelling north just a little bit.
We had to wait for germ theory to colonize Africa because we were actually getting murdered by the germs. The thing as well is you can see the tribe wants to help. Like, one of them's holding the boy.
One of my family's dying. Can you do anything? Actually, I do have some medicine for this. And the progressive's like, no, you don't.
Progressive time traveler comes in, just executes the white man, steals the medicine, and buggers off.
You're welcome.
Anyway, this never happened. Whitey needed us, boys.
Preposterous nonsense.
In case you're wondering, this isn't sponsored, but I just thought it's funny because when I looked up the painting, I was able to find this. This is a website that will print it off for you.
Oh.
Put it in a lovely frame so you can hang it over your office and oppress the minorities in real time. And we have an artist's rendition of what you can have, for example. And just the artist's rendition, how colonial does that look? Like white chair, white desk, white laptop, white background.
Very white Jesus.
Yeah. The thing is, when everything's white, it's a black guy as well.
Yeah.
The old Family Guy joke.
Yeah,
But there you have it. Just makes me laugh. The all-white oppressive office there, if you want to oppress your friends at work.
Kneeling in front of a white man. He's kneeling.
Yeah, the white man kneels.
Yeah.
I can't get over it. It's so ridiculous.
Weird that they have to lie about this painting.
No, they can never show you it, can they?
No, but they've got it's a black man kneeling in front of a white man. No, they're both kneeling and tending to a sick man.
Yeah,
You
painting.
liars.
Like they could find a photo of that and put that on the article. They won't.
But they could have just described it accurately, but they won't.
We'll go to the Times because the Times has a little more information.
Oh, go on then.
They said the Welcome Collection announced the closure on Twitter, saying, "What's the point of museums?"
What do you do? I run a museum. I've come to the conclusion that there's no point for us existing.
I'm not going to scroll down. They say, what is the point of museums? Truthfully, we've been asking ourselves the same question.
That's so bizarre. Like this, I mean, like
The dude entrusted his entire life's work to you.
Yeah, and now the people are like, well, why do we do this? What do you think?
Pure demoralization.
Yeah.
Could not get more transparent. In case you're listening,
Just
what's the point?
preposterous.
Preserve historical relics for public display to educate educate the ignorant public on how the past was.
Yeah, that's what a museum is traditionally for.
There you are.
Don't know what I have to say.
It took me 2 seconds to write that down. Still butchered the pronunciation, but whatever. It said, Welcome's aim of collecting vast numbers of objects that would enable a better understanding of art and science, of healing throughout the ages, was problematic for a number of reasons. Who did these objects belong to? How were they acquired? What gives us the right to tell these stories?
No, that's great, because I'm going to walk into that museum and be like, no, you're right, you don't have the right. I have the right.
Yeah,
and do you know what gives me the right? The fact that I say I have the right. End of story. Get out. It's my museum now.
Well,
look at me. I am the museum curator now.
I mean, I thought that, it belonged to him by purchase, therefore belonged to him. But never mind.
Yeah.
What gives you the right? Well, he gave them to you to hand out.
Ownership is what gives you the right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they were donated to you in trust.
Yes.
Bad trust, it turns out. The result was a collection that told a global story of health and medicine in which disabled people, black people, indigenous people, and people of colour were blah, 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 blah.
Well, no, hang on. We're exoticized, marginalised, and exploited.
I don't know
missed out altogether. Hang on, no, hang on. No, the result of a collection of African traditional medicine artefacts is not exoticizing, marginalising, or exploiting Africans. What it is representing them. It is representing something that is otherwise absent. And they're like, yes, but we don't like that, so that has to go. And so now they are not being represented, so they aren't there at all.
African representation isn't important in the African section of the museum, thank you.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I do love as well the idea that you're exoticizing disabled people.
Talking about?
Come on, when? Like, who does that? That's just not a thing.
But how are you marginalising Africans by having a representation of African things? That's centering them. That's privileging them.
Yeah. Anyway, they then whine about the privilege again. It's just pointless. But we'll go to Cambridge, because they've had even more of this kind of demoralisation. I thought I'd throw it in here as well.
Trans Jesus.
Yeah, Cambridge University. Remember where that From Debate was from, that we do the premium podcast on. A college dean is in a heresy row over a sermon suggesting that Jesus had a trans body.
I love that we're in heresy rows in the year of our Lord 2022.
Yeah.
That's heresy.
Michael Banner over here of Trinity College said such a view was legitimate after her congregation of members was left in tears by the sermon. What has become of Christianity? You've got the Christians just in tears of like, I just want to leave. Why am I here?
It's all right. We'll get to that in my next segment because it's just gold. The Anglican Church is basically on the verge of just shooting itself for the public good.
Joshua Hirth, a junior research fellow, who supported his claim by showing 3 medieval and Renaissance paintings of the crucifixion. That would stand up in court.
Yeah.
Who's your witness? Well, he lived 1,000 years after the fact.
I've got a picture from Leonardo of the wound of Christ.
Yeah.
And what did it look like?
Well, it depicted a side wound that the guest preacher likened to a vagina. I mean, he's taking the piss. I mean, he's really got to be taking the piss.
If you look at this picture of Jesus that someone drew, it looks like a fanny.
So,
he's trans.
Yeah, idiots.
That's literally the argument, isn't it?
Hirth, whose PhD was supervised by... There's the PhD. Yeah.
It looks like a fanny.
It was supervised by Right Reverend Lord Williams of Oystermouth. English place names. A former Archbishop of Canterbury. I mean, you couldn't get more high in the church. Yeah. Also told worshippers that in the prayer book of Bonne of Luxembourg from the 14th century,
this is good.
The wound was isolated and takes on, quote, the appearance of a decidedly vaginal appearance. Quote, in Christ's...
Archbishop Canterbury's argument is it looks like a fanny.
In Christ's simultaneously masculine and feminine body in these works, if the body of Christ is... as these works suggest, the body of all bodies, then his body is also a trans body. Okay, you failed the course, would be my immediate response.
This is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, honestly.
We have a quote from one attendant who was in tears by the end of it, along with everyone else.
In tears of laughter, probably.
Quote, I am contemptuous of the idea that by cutting a hole in a man, he can be through which he can be penetrated.
This is very transphobic.
He becomes a woman, said one attendee.
Deeply transphobic.
Yikes. So,
disavow.
I think we do have to say Christ is a woman.
Yeah.
I love the terms of service. Anyway.
Thanks, Longinus.
Why is this happening? Money, of course. This never went away. I mean, this is really Douglas Murray's
so stupid.
Madness of Crowds, but I thought we'd just go through some of this. So you remember Sarah Rao?
I do.
The Windows XP woman who collapsed.
White people are in charge of anything. Men are in charge of everything. Therefore, the structure is institutionally patriarchal and white supremacist. And now that Rishi Sunak's in charge,
Dun, 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 dun. Anyway, so she's delighted to say she's releasing her forthcoming book, White Women.
Okay, hang on, let's hear her out.
This is a very suitable book for the white women in your life.
I'm actually interested in reading your thoughts on White Women.
This is basically a book that says you're racist, $12, please.
Yeah.
And we're going to go to the
White
Amazon
Women
listing.
are the worst of it.
Let's have a read.
$12 well spent.
So I'm going to read out just some of the... Oh, I should have bring the critical race theory textbook. I forgot. Crap. Oh, well.
It's all right, I can remember it.
Yeah,
I know what you're going to talk about. The
It
quotes.
starts off, this she says, it's aimed at white women who want to stop being nice and start dismantling white supremacy, because you have to be a
Right. White supremacy is being nice.
B word. She writes, quote, it's no secret that an American society encourages women to be nice, polite, and conflict avoidant. But when it comes to addressing racism, they only serve to uphold the status quo, white supremacy. If white womanhood is a house, you need to be perfect, being its foundation. Being perfect is key to your happiness and your success, to your very existence, white women. Perfect hair, perfect clothes, perfect grades, perfect nails, perfect weddings, perfect bodies, perfect, adoring and supportive wife and mother, perfect employee and colleague.
Has she ever met a white woman?
And then she just writes, like after that big long list, white skin, and then there's a gap. Okay. The foundational principle on perfection is a white supremacist society, like ours is rooted in whiteness. Without it, your hair will never be straight enough, your trophies will never be shiny enough, your flowery dresses a bit wilted. Okay.
She seems to be like talking about some incredibly idealized view of like 1960s America.
1930s even.
Yeah, probably even earlier. Yeah,
it's mad.
Well,
I've just saved everyone $12.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking of like the communities that I grew up in as a kid, and like the idea of perfect anything. Like white women have all this perfect stuff. It's like, man, no, we didn't.
Look, do you have any more coal?
Yeah, don't know what you're talking. Yeah, literally don't know what you're talking about. But.
Yeah, she then goes on to just list how she was a racist once upon a time, but not anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not joking.
I used to be a racist, but then I decided to hate white people.
Since the Enlightenment, she's not racist anymore. And there's, I'm just going to read one review.
Go on.
5 stars from a white lady with a Slavic name. Yeah, of course. No Polish woman would agree to this, but some immigrant who went to America. Here's the truth. Racism is in the air we breathe. Okay, it's invisible. This is the perfect book to wake us up. I love the correlation of how our niceness is holding up white supremacy. Go insidious. Get this book and then get 10 copies and share it with everyone. Right, one deluded American white woman.
You know they really believe this, don't you?
Oh yeah, well, there's hordes of white women.
Like, they view Western civilization as the product of white thought and industry, and so it is intrinsically a white racial project. They can't see it any other way.
The last one here, just going to mention, she's actually making a big deal about the fact she's having more white women than ever reading her books. So I suppose that's why she published this new one to get rid of them.
It's a good grift, man.
Yeah.
Literally, there are loads of white, progressives in America, mostly women, who want to be told. This is how Robin DiAngelo got her big break. It was just like, look, I'm just flagellating white women, and they love it.
Getting back to all this, to go back to the Wakanda aspect, I should have brought the critical race theory textbook, but I don't have it. So if we can get up the unrelated image to what I'm about to talk about, Wolfenstein fans in the chat, we're going to talk about a essay in there, which you alluded me to, called Sapphire Bound.
Yeah, by Regina Austin.
Yeah.
This critical race theory, key writings that form the movement, was edited together by Kimberly Crenshaw, the woman who coined the term intersectionality, and is essentially the core canon of intersectionality. It's taught at universities. That's why I had to buy it for like 50 quid. It cost a fortune, and it's a massive book.
And it's about as well written as Sarah's work.
It's not that it's not intellectual, to be honest. It's that it's
just balmy.
Yeah, it's just it's like reading a Nazi handbook.
So the cliff notes of what I wrote down from the book, which is we have Regina over here, who tells us she grew up thinking that Sapphire was merely a character on the Amos and Andy show, which is a show from the 1940s. So nice and relevant.
I'd never seen it, actually.
No, I had a look at the show, actually. And Sapphire is a perfectly reasonable woman who's just really angry at this one guy who's... a
layabout?
Well, yeah, he doesn't make much money, and when he does, he's just cheating people out of money. He's just a bit of an ass.
So, fair. Okay.
Yeah, seems perfectly fine. But she says, a figment of white man's racism, sexist comic imagination is what she was. Little did I suspect that...
a reasonable black woman? What?
Little did I suspect that Sapphire was more generally employed appellation for the stereotypical black bitch. Tough, domineering, emasculating, strident, and shrill.
But she was always going on about this con artist, wasn't she?
Yeah. But she writes, all she does is complain. Why doesn't that woman shut up? Okay, Regina.
Well, I mean, that's what the con artist is thinking.
Yeah. Black bitch hunts are alive and well today, she says. In the territory where minority female law faculty labour, there are so many...
yes, in Harvard Law School, there's black bitch hunts going on.
Oppression, you've never had it harder.
Yeah.
There are so many things to get riled about that keep quiet is impossible. She's saying she's becoming what she thinks a proper black woman is, which is... okay. I think the time has come for us to get truly hysterical, to take on the role of professional sapphires. What does that mean in practicality?
Yep.
She gives us the example of Chambers v. Omaha Girls Club. She says 90% of the participants in the girls' club were black women.
Yep.
Chambers, an unmarried black woman in her early 20s, was working with the girls' club.
And it was meant to be a good example to the young ladies.
Yep, she was discharged from her job when she became pregnant. Her dismissal was justified by the club's no negative role model rule. Negative role models in the girls' club, wrote the rules, included such things as being a single-parent pregnancy.
Black club that was mostly for black girls, run by black people.
Had a rule saying if you get pregnant and you're not married...
That's a bad role model. Which it is.
So a black woman sued, saying it was racism against her. She maintained that the rule would disproportionately have an impact on black women.
What? It's only black women in the club. What do you want?
She says, implicit in the Chamber's decision is an assumption that the actual cultural practices and articulated moral positions, she thinks this is how all black women act, of black females who know the struggles of early and single motherhood firsthand are both misguided and destructive. It's like, yeah, the court ruled that raising a bastard is not a good role model.
It's not good for the kids.
No.
75% single motherhood in the black community now.
Data rules that out. It's probably the worst thing you could do.
Yeah, short of physically abusing the child.
I mean, I do one day want to sit down and compare the effects of drinking while pregnant and single motherhood and just...
Great question.
I mean, that would be an explosive podcast. We'll do that soon.
It's not good for the kids.
No. But she says, it is likely the club sacked her in part because she resisted its efforts to model her in conformity with white middle-class morality. It's a white thing to have a father.
Well, that's her opinion, yes.
Yeah. Crystal Chambers refused to accept the yoke of paternalism, our oppression... oppression for herself, and thereby freed the girls' club by getting pregnant by a random guy. Okay.
Salute.
Yeah, this lady still has a job, in case you're wondering as well. We'll just check that out. She still works at the University of Pennsylvania in the law department. If you go to the next one, please jump up and sit, and there you are. Yeah. Good luck, students.
And I love this. Look, professor of law, proponent of critical race theory, anti-capitalist. Well, duh.
Views America as a nation awash with racism. Yeah, mostly her. Like she sat there going, if you're black, your father walks out on you. I was like,
believes that non-white minority status confers the privilege of interpreting law as one pleases. Do what I like. She's literally like the Eric Cartman of critical race theory.
Yeah, anyway.
I do what I want.
Just ending off. There we are. Where's Wakanda, lads? It's in here. That's where it is. It's that. Just as long as we believe it. But otherwise, that's that. If you appreciated that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content we have on the site, such as the premium articles we do, this one on how to avoid cancellation Philly style, with an audio track for silver and gold tier members, of course. If you'd like to find out what else is putting out, you can follow us on Getter at lotuseaters_com on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.